and welcome to the first of our MBA Discovery series. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon, and just a heads up that this is being recorded so that you can go back and watch this again later if you'd like. My name is Jen Horvath, and I'm joining you from the Wharton MBA Admissions Office today. I am joined by my fantastic colleague, Meghan Gatti, who I will be turning things over to momentarily. And then one of our current students, Ben Huntley, who is getting ready to graduate in just a few short days away now, and he will walk you through the student experience. But to give you an idea of what we have in store for you today, for those of you who have joined us previously for one of our virtual events, or if you were able to visit us on campus prior to the pandemic, you will have likely heard about our advising support network, which we consider one of the key differentiators of the Wharton experience. And Ben, if you can go to the next slide, that will walk you through what that advising support network looks like in terms of there being an advisor from each of the 4 key departments. So you have someone in the Office of Student Life, you have someone in our Career Management Department, someone from our McNulty Leadership Program, and then finally you have someone in our Academic Affairs Office. So when we host our events, we do a very high-level overview of what each of these different offices are going to bring to you and help you with through the course of your 2 years at Wharton. But this series, which starts today, is going to walk you through a deeper dive into each of those 4 offices. And that will kick off today with Meghan going through the Office of Student Life. And then in the coming weeks, for the next 3 Wednesdays, you can join us again to hear more about the other offices in terms of career, leadership, and academics and how they all work together. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Meghan. She has already requested that if you would like and feel comfortable, you can go ahead and share your video so that we can have some participation. And once Meghan works through the slides, she will be taking some Q&A at the end. So get ready to ask your questions in the chat. But Meghan, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Jen, and thank you so much for having me. I'm going to behave, I promise. Also love the way Ben, that Jen just asked you to go on to the next slide, because normally I would just say click. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Meghan. I am an associate director in the Office of Student Life. I've been at Wharton for 7 years, which time flies when you're having fun. I actually started working in the career management office and then made a move over to student life. It's a little bit of a better personality fit, I'll say. But I love working at Wharton and, getting to meet some of the best and brightest and the global leaders of tomorrow. Ben, I was just going to say click. Should I make like a code sign? Click. Awesome. So to reiterate why I love working at Wharton, I am so fortunate because this is the most vibrant and diverse community that I think I'll have the privilege of working with in my professional career. And these folks are the ones who are going to go forth and make some serious positive change in the world. And the community sets Wharton apart from its peers by far. Would be surprised if you haven't heard that from your research into B schools, right? And there's this really organic sense of a pay it forward mentality, whether that be a cold email to an alumni asking for to network or what have you, or asking a random second year to help case prep for recruiting. Folks are willing to drop everything and help out their peers within this community. And I love it. Ben, do you want to intro yourself and talk about why the power of the Wharton community, if you will?
Yeah, happy to. Sorry, I'm getting over a little something. So you guys are gonna hear me cough. I apologize. So yeah, as Meghan and Jen alluded to in the second year, it was not that long ago that I was in your guys' shoes, so I can speak to what that experience looked like. But I mean, yeah, I think Meghan really hit the nail on the head. The sort of top tier business schools are all going to check off a lot of the same boxes. There's going to be international opportunities. There's going to be, amazing coursework. There's going to be obviously awesome career opportunities. But really what sets it aside sort of are in the margins. And the big thing that sort of set Wharton aside for me is the people in the community. You know, it's a big place. We're going to go into that in a little bit in a second. But that said, it feels a lot smaller than it is. People here are extremely open, extremely willing to help, extremely willing to be vulnerable, which is a big thing I think is not really acknowledged all that often. So yeah, I mean, the people definitely brought me here, and the people are why I've really loved my time here. So I really can't say anything. I really can't say enough about the people here. They've been absolutely amazing.
And can I just be honest for a second? So another reason why I love working at Wharton is I'm super empowered, almost too empowered to be my authentic self. And when Jen was talking about how Ben's getting ready to graduate, in my head, the song was playing, "Baby, please don't go." Ben is just, I'm going to be really sad when you leave, Ben. Anywho, also, this is Reggie, my dog. And I'm really sorry if the mail comes and he starts barking and I can't get to mute very quickly, but he's hanging out with us today. All right, let's keep going. So part of what my team does and what we do here at Wharton is to help make this place feel smaller. And how do we actually do that, right? So then this one's an animated slide, so you're gonna have to keep looking. Thank you. So it all starts with the learning team. That's where everything begins, right? So that's gonna be the folks that you'll take management 610 with during preterm. And then it expands upon to 72 folks in a cohort. And there's 3 cohorts by cluster, which is about 216. And there's 4 clusters for the class. So the clusters are 1, 2, 3, 4. In each cluster, the cohorts are letters. So I actually am the advisor for cluster 1. Cohorts A, B, C. We're a lot of fun, if you will. And you'll see we have mascots for each of our clusters because, you know, why not? We're the Lions. We're proud. We like to get some sleep and rest, which is really important to the crazy business school experience. Then you're in 2 clusters, right?
So yeah, I was cluster 4 as a student, or as a first year rather, and now as a SLF, I've been with my girl Meghan in cluster 1. So my allegiances are somewhat split, but I won't say where I'm more heavily based.
We all know though, right?
I mean, we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, it's fine. We're all one big happy family here. Excellent. So with that, part of what my team also does is to help folks navigate such a big school, and so there's almost too much that's offered here, right? So how do you get involved outside of the classroom with clubs, with pen resources? Time management is a big piece of it because, like I said, there's almost too much offered, and you really have to be comfortable with saying no. Where do you meet people? Where do you make connections? Where do you go for help? And then lastly, what do you do if you feel overwhelmed? Because I would say it is an overwhelming experience. It's an incredible experience, but it can be at times overwhelming. So my team helps to kind of, you know, help folks navigate that experience. Then can you share an example of how you use student life, not just my team, but just like in general, like how you've navigated your student life experience here?
Yeah. So I mean, it's taken on different forms depending on sort of where I was in the journey. When I first got here, to Megan's point, you're kind of, you know, bombarded with all these options. Wharton does a really good job of sort of turning on the spigots at different times. So it doesn't, you know, all come at once. But that said, you're, you know, 6 weeks in and you just have, you know, way too much to navigate. So, you know, I actually sat down with my advisor at the time, Mr. Evan, and we like talked through what, you know, some good paths for me to take would be, some good opportunities for me to get involved would be, you know, whether that be leadership opportunities, whether that be, you know, just simply clubs, you know, sort of how much time I could expect to reasonably spend each thing. I mean, we literally, you know, sort of got down to the nitty gritty in a way that, you know, asked questions I didn't even think, you know, that existed. So that was really helpful. Obviously sort of as that progressed, you know, and I got a little more comfortable and got involved in some stuff. You know, it became, well, how do I sort of rebalance my time? Because at the end of the day, there's a finite amount of time, but you've got an infinite amount of stuff to do. So, you know, what did I want to prioritize? Did I want to prioritize finding a job? Did I want to prioritize sort of student community. I want to prioritize academics, like sort of talking about like what that looks like. Obviously, as we got to the second year, the world looked a little bit different, than what expectations were coming in. So had some conversations with people about what that looked like, kind of what best leadership opportunities would be. As a second year, I've been very, very involved in the Office of Student Life as a student life fellow, as I alluded to earlier. So, I can't speak highly enough of how student life has just helped kind of bring everything together. The way I like to think of it is Wharton exists as these like very clearly defined pillars. There's like academics, there's careers, which, you guys will hear about in the weeks to come. And student life sort of helps to like pull all those together and kind of like make this entire ecosystem as opposed to just a bunch of disparate parts. So I've used them heavily, and they've been fantastic.
And that was so lovely. I'm so glad this session's going to be is recorded so that I can come back to this. To echo Ben's points, one of my like go-to tips for folks who ask for advice before coming in or when thinking about applying to Wharton or coming into the experience, I always say like, give yourself time to stop and reflect and think about some goals that you want to accomplish while you're here for the 2 years, right? Because it'll go by so quickly. And also, I like to use, so I'm sure you've all heard of FOMO. I like to use the phrase JOMO, which is joy of missing out, which ties back into that aspect of saying no, because at the end of the day, this is a huge investment for folks, financially, emotionally, physically. So just to really come in focused with some goals in mind and to remain focused. And my team's there to help you almost remain accountable throughout the way because there's a lot going on. So I love JOMO. Gotta plug JOMO then. Next. So my team, our mission, if you will, it's community, connection, and affinity. So what does that mean, right? So from small group dinners to Wharton Olympics, that's fine. Our team helps to really make Wharton feel like home, right? So we help folks to build community in big and small ways. We help to foster and facilitate connections. And ultimately, the big goal is to really grow a sense of affinity and make you love Wharton, right? And be an engaged alumni for the rest of your life. So how do we do that, right? We provide opportunities for students to connect. So I actually manage the Student Life Fellows program that Ben is a part of. It's one of my favorite parts of the job. And I'm totally biased, but I think that's probably one of the most impactful fellowships and resources at Wharton because it's a holistic Wharton one-stop shop support resource, right? Like any Wharton related question, you can go to your Student Life Fellow for. So with that, we support folks and also we support folks with how transformative this experience is. You have 2 years to fail safely. So make the most of it. So those are some examples of how we help to do that. Did you like that, Wink? This one makes me cringe. Can you click again, please, Ben? So with that, we also do student life advising, which was one of my kind of a funny question because students will be like, it's very clear what an academic advising session is and what a career management advising session is, right? Student life, what does that even mean, Meg? Well, let me tell you, it can cover a range of topics, ranging from time management's a big one, like I said, setting goals and keeping on those goals, right? So like accountability is a big part of that. Understanding, how to say no, learning about opportunities that are available to you that are even outside of Wharton and at Penn. And also we are a hub of historical knowledge, right? So questions like, can I create a new club? Why, yes, you can. Let me tell you how. So our team, it's kind of ambiguous, but I think that that's kind of exciting, right? Anything that you want to come talk to us about, that's where we're here to support folks. Like Evan said it when he met with Evan. I didn't know that you did that, Evan. That's great.
I did.
You want to chime in here or you want to keep going? We're good.
Keep cranking.
So there's a lot of ways to get involved within the community, right? Outside of the classroom. So there's over 130 clubs ranging from professional clubs to affinity clubs to cigar club, cannabis club. So there's so many ways to get involved in leadership capacities within clubs or just as members. There's 24 student-led conferences. You'll hear a lot that there's a lot of student-led efforts here at Wharton, which is also part of what makes it so excellent. So like I said before, there's almost too many ways to get involved. So it's the beautiful piece of it, but it's also something to keep in mind when you're thinking about your 2-year investment here. But Ben, do you want to talk about maybe ways besides Student Life Fellow that you've got involved with clubs or conferences?
Absolutely. So I had it described to me both by Evan when I met with him, as well as my Student Life Fellow, my SLF, when I was a first year. You don't want to really over commit, because it's really easy to just find yourself with not enough time left in the day. So I was kind of deliberate about how I spent my time. So first year I was recruited for consulting. That took up a ton of my time. Happy to talk about that in a little bit. But that took up a ton of my time. So I didn't get as heavily involved in my first year, so I was really worried about finding a job. That said, my first year I was on, I was on the cluster council. So those 4 clusters we talked about, I was on the sort of governing body of our cluster 4. Honestly, I don't know if I had any other leadership positions my first year. I was doing a ton of stuff. I was involved in consulting club. I was involved in beer club. I was involved in, it seemed like it was so long ago. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but just a bunch of other stuff. In the second year, I was the president of beer club. I was on the board of consulting club. I was on the board of Storytellers, which is one of my favorite things here at Wharton. I was on WGA. So yeah, there's a ton of ways to get involved. That said, one thing I wanted to point out, I would suspect if we pulled this same slide deck up from even last year, these numbers are going to be different. And they're going to be smaller because there's always new things coming on board. I think since I've been here, we've added the cannabis club, we've added the music club, we've added, I think, fintech, I think we've added blockchain.
Fintech's fire, like they are doing some badass things.
They've got an amazing podcast, which they just won an award for. I've got a really good buddy on fintech. I think the student-led conferences is up as well. I think this year, I want to say they added a, it's like the future of cities or like future mobility or something like that. That was a huge one, which they really busted their butts to put together. So there's always new things coming on, and I think Meghan alluded to this earlier. If you have, there's probably going to be an outlet for something you're passionate about, and if there's not, guess what? We're going to give you the resources, and you're going to be able to do yourself. So I don't think that should be overlooked. So there's a ton of ways to get involved. To Meghan's point, probably too many, but I would rather that be the case than not enough. So that's another wonderful thing about this community.
Ben, after hearing me talk about all the things that you're involved with, even as in your second year, clearly you don't sleep because you do them all so well. But just to clarify for everyone, because I forget when I'm talking to friends and family and folks who aren't in my Wharton world, like I use a lot of acronyms. So we'll get to some more acronyms later on. But the WGA is the Wharton Graduate Association, which is pretty much the student government, if you will, at Wharton. And that's where all of the clubs fall under, right? And also the first year cluster board system. So it's its own separate entity, but my team works very, very closely with the leadership on the WGA. Cool. So some examples of events and activities and ways that we provide opportunities for you to connect and get to know folks, not only in your cohort, cluster, and class, but also with second years. So there's preterm, which we're actually preparing for right now, which is crazy, but it's a lot of fun. It's overwhelming, and it's we're really excited because hopefully we're going to be able to do some things safely in person this upcoming preterm. We have cluster suppers. I gotta stop winking, Ben.
I just gotta point out my buddy Tony Maggio here. Sorry, I'll move on.
Tony. Hey, Tony. We have One World at Wharton, which is an event that we host for international students and navigating, the Wharton experience because it's nuanced for folks who are international. Quarter One Salute, which is actually one of my banner events. We have a lot of swag. Clearly, you can tell from this photo. Which celebrates the end of quarter one exams for the first year class. So that's a really fun one. Kids Club events. So one of the most unique and special, and very important parts of this experience is the partner experience. And a lot of folks come with kids and families, right? So this is one of the cutest events that we host. We actually have the kids trick or treat, and it's just lovely. 60-second lectures. So this happens beginning at preterm and then is ongoing throughout the experience. It's one of the longest, I think, Wharton traditions that we've had. So you pretty much have 60 seconds to give a lecture and pretty much teach your classmates and your peers something new. And I really love 60-second lectures.
So I did a 6-second lecture. So I will attest to that. But one thing I wanted to say, the kids reminded me of this. I remember when I was in your all's shoes, and I really wish someone would have said this to me. So I'm going to say it to you, and I apologize if you know this and you're smarter than I am, which you probably are. But business school is not. All these schools put out these class profiles of average age and all that sort of stuff, and I very much sort of came into that feeling like, am I going to fit in? Am I going to be okay? Like, are there going to be other people like me? And then you have to remind yourself that business school is such a wide collection of people from such a wide collection of ages and, experiences and, different points in their life and all this sort of stuff that, kind of no matter where you are in life, if, you're going to be able to find your path. Like, I think the kids one is a really important thing to talk about. Like, some of my best friends here have kids. Obviously they have a very different experience than I do as a single male. That said, like, they're here, they're loving their experience, and they've made the best of it. So I just want to make sure that's not overstated, that no matter what your path and sort of no matter where you are in life, like, you're going to be able to find a community here that's going to be supportive and is going to be absolutely amazing, sort of help you through this journey. I didn't want to breeze over that.
No, absolutely, Ben. And I will say that my team really works hard on making sure that partners and families feel integrated within the community. As my boss, the director of our team, Eddie Banks-Crossan, would say, happy partner, happy student. So that's something that we really work hard on as well.
And the motto of the Partners Club is they're called the Breadwinners Club, which I think is funny.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have shirts that say Breadwinners Club.
Oh. And then we also have, I love this one. So we have a couple other things that our team does is Conversations That Matter, another acronym, CTM, which is a 6-week-long intergroup dialogue session, if you will, that really goes deep into diversity, inclusion, identity work, personal growth. Ben and I actually did CTM this past fall together, and Ben, it was just such an amazing experience. Like, honestly, it was almost like it was just a really, really, really great way to really get to know folks. And I will have these people in my life forever, Ben. You can't get rid of me. If you want to speak about CTM, but then first year send off is another one of my, so I actually am, my title is first year experience. So I cover all things first year experience, right? So our last event of the year is first year send off. And that's a big celebration of you did the thing you got for your first year, and kind of, recognize the class and celebrate before folks go to internships. This was one of my favorite ones because we had it at Bach Bar, which is this awesome location in Philly, and I think one of the best views of the city. Ben, were you here for? I don't think you were here for that one.
So we didn't have one last year because of COVID.
Oh, COVID.
Yeah, COVID was really great. Let me tell you. No, Conversations That Matter was fantastic, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier. One of the things I've really liked about this community is, it's A64, so it's one of the bigger, if not, I think it's the second biggest class, if I remember right. It's all the sort of top tier business schools. So you kind of come in like thinking this is a huge group of people. Like, am I going to be able to find my way? I think there's also a certain amount of like, you're granted a certain amount of anonymity, right? If you're one of 864, like, are you really going to stick out? Like, can you kind of run under the radar? Like, if that's what you want to do. So I think one of the things that I was a little worried about was like, am I going to get to know people on like a next level? Is it just going to be simply like, this is where I'm from, this is what I want to do, like this sort of superfluous conversations, and those exist, of course. But that said, I think Conversations That Matter really highlights the fact that, people here are really willing to kind of get beyond that next layer and kind of like have serious, really hard conversations, frankly. There's a vulnerability that people have been willing to show in this community that I've really, 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 really enjoyed. Like it's been really, really welcome. I remember, and it's probably like my second or third week at Wharton, one of my cohort mates, she and I think in my magic class, microeconomics, sorry, we like disagreed on a point about it doesn't matter, I think carbon tax or something. And we just like sat down and had a conversation about it. We had like a 45-minute coffee, and we both got so vulnerable and so real. And like to this day, she is one of my best friends at this place. So yeah, and like I said, we had met each other maybe once, had been in a classroom together a couple of times. Like, I had no reason to be open and vulnerable with each other to that degree, but yet we both steered into it, and it was great. So that's, I think, one of the things I've really loved here is how people have been willing to kind of open themselves up and expose themselves a little bit, and that's been wonderful. It's definitely something that's kind of permeates through this culture. So that's one of my favorite things about Wharton.
Thanks, Ben. And to your point, I think that these opportunities that we provide for students, I really think is so beneficial and adds so much value to the MBA here at Wharton, because the reality is you're going to go forth and lead diverse teams, right? So we're going to provide the necessary tools and skill development that you need to be the best global leader that you can be. So glad to hear you share there. I think, Ben, thank you. So we talked about how my team supports students, but there's also ways to get support from students as well. So for the first year experience, this is also leadership opportunities that you can become involved with. As we talked about, it was previously branded Cluster Council, now it's Cluster Board. So this is a group of about, I want to say, 16 to 18 first year students per cluster. And the opportunities range from president to communications to diversity to leadership, careers. So this is a great way to get involved early on, and also have access to some of the administration and inside scoop, if you will. So the career rep works very closely with career management. There's 3 student life reps. They work closely with our team. So it's really fun. Ben, do you want to talk about your experience with Cluster Council or Board before we move to second year?
Yeah, so Cluster Board, as Meghan said, it's a group of, I think 15-ish of us that kind of help create a community amongst the cluster itself. We facilitate a bunch of different events, kind of serve as liaisons between the administration and the rest of the students. It was fantastic. It was really, really great. Not only to make, new friends and get to know people, but also to be able to make an impact. We did some things, we continue to do those things even in the second year. Mm-hmm. That's
it's a 2-year gig. I forgot.
It's a 2-year gig that have, I think really made this place a better community for folks, allowed people to connect, and allowed people to have, a good time together. So it was, being part of the Cluster Council was at times thankless, but it was really, really fun and a great experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. And then moving to, there's again, a plethora of ways to get involved. For second year. So like I said, I manage the Student Life Fellows program. They're the ones who help to welcome folks at Welcome Weekend. And like I said, holistically support the first year experience and navigate, the experience that I always say in the Meghan way, like they just did the thing that you're about to do. So why not go to them for Wharton related questions, right? But there's a ton of leadership opportunities for second years as well. A lot of fellowships, if you will. Ben, how many fellowship roles do you have?
2, SLF and comms.
Good for you. Some people have quite a lot, which I again question if they sleep, but there's so many ways to get involved. So I would say just think about what you're interested, either you're passionate about or what you want to learn more about, and go forth, and there's something here for you to pursue. Philadelphia freedom. Jen's gonna be so mad that she asked me to do this session. So this is like the best slide ever. So Philly's great. I think it's such an underrated city. Personally, I went to undergrad in Carnegie Mellon University, so I got to give a shout out to Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh, but I'm from Philadelphia. It's such a great little like walkable city. So with that, do you want to click, Ben? Because there's like some animation here. So Huntsman Hall, which is in University City in Philadelphia, is where you will have class. And then typically a lot of students live in Rittenhouse, the Rittenhouse area. Now I am going to stop and say that I do encourage folks to look outside of Rittenhouse if they want to, because you might get a little more bang for your buck. But there is a lot of community building that happens in Rittenhouse and outside of Rittenhouse. Ben, you're not in Rittenhouse, are you?
I am. I'm I don't know, probably like
I feel like you're my neighbor.
Two crosses below this like first set of footsteps here.
Oh, you're in Spruce, right?
Yeah, 23rd and Spruce.
Wow, that's creepy. And then it's a very, very short commute, if you will, to school. I think it's about 15 minutes.
So from I'm a little bit further west than some. For me, door to door, it's like 22, 23 minutes. That said, one of the walks to and from have been honestly some of the best parts of Wharton, because you walk with people that, sometimes sometimes you don't know, and like you're all kind of going the same place, and you just have really interesting conversations and meet people that you might not otherwise meet. And sometimes you're going to see those people again on the next walk. Sometimes you're not going to see them, and all that's perfectly fine. But I think it just speaks to the fact that there are these like organic ways to build community, and then there's completely inorganic ways. And I wouldn't have thought that walking to and from campus was a good way to meet people, but turns out it really, really is. It's also a good way to like get caught up on some phone calls and talk to family and stuff like that. But it's also a really good way to meet people and just kind of keep the conversations going and kind of keep building those connections even outside of the formal structures that are Wharton.
Yeah, I think Philly is just such a great place to spend time, if you will, in your life. I think that this year was very exciting to be in Philadelphia. Just like with a lot of exciting things happened this year in Philly. The food scene is dope. It's incredible. There's a lot of good food if you're a foodie. I just also love that it's pretty much like walkable the entire city, or bikeable or scooterable, if you will.
And I should point out the fact that, like within you're gonna exist in these kind of little bubbles. Like you're probably gonna most people are in Rittenhouse or Rittenhouse adjacent, so you're gonna exist in this little bubble. But that said, even outside the bubble, like Fishtown's awesome, South Philly is amazing. Even starting to get out like up north, like the Wissahickon, and up in like Manayunk and Passyunk, there's some really some amazing stuff up there. So you're gonna familiarize with yourself with the bubble, but you're also please do explore out, because to Megan's point, Philly's got some really, really awesome things going for it.
It's an underdog, I think.
What'd you say?
An underdog, if you will. I think it's
yes, which they embrace, and then some. But we'll move on from that.
Yes. All right, one of my favorite acronyms here is Wharton Life Balance, aka WLB. WLB. So what does Wharton Life Balance mean? Ultimately, this all ties back to the time management piece, right? And your wellness. So you're only gonna have success here at Wharton if you're doing well, and if you are managing your time efficiently and prioritizing what's important to you. So some examples of this, I always say that folks will come to Wharton and they will like almost like black out and wake up in 2 years, and they'll forget that they had like family and friends who aren't Wharton students. So these are all personal examples of a student's Wharton life balance, but keep in mind that there's also the navigating coursework, recruiting, which it takes up a lot of time. So I think the important messaging, Ben, do you want to click to the next slide? Is that everyone's Wharton life balance looks different, and they should look different. This is such a personal experience. So I think just like even now, as you're considering business school, like your personal journey is going to be so unique to you. And I think that the beautiful part about Wharton is that we acknowledge this and make sure that you are your best self throughout the 2 years here, so that you have the most success that you can be. Ben, talk about your Wharton life balance.
So something I have not always done amazing at. To Megan's point, it's really easy to sort of put the blinders on and kind of stay focused on what's right in front of you. That said, um, you know, you're gonna have a matter of balance within the Wharton and obviously within between Wharton and the other parts of your life. So within Wharton, you're never going to be able to focus all your energy on one thing. There's always going to be a bunch of competing priorities, whether that be, to Megan's point, recruiting, academics, social life, whatever. You've got a finite pool, so you're just gonna have to balance accordingly. That's hard. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work, and you're gonna say no to things. You get comfortable with that. You're just going to say no to things. But I do think it's a bigger thing in that kind of remembering that this is a 2-year period of your life. You don't want to neglect everything that's not right in front of you, because you're going to go back to that when you leave this place. So taking time to call friends, to call family, to check in, taking a long weekend to go see a friend who just had a kid, or go to a friend's wedding, or whatever. We all know the life events that come up, but it's okay to say no to things, just to make sure that you're still,
It's great to
still
say no
life,
to things.
that you're still kind of moving forward. So yeah, it's hard. It's not easy, but that's why OSL is here. They've been a huge help. Eddie, the I think he's like the
My
director.
boss. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Megan's boss. I remember, so I'll give a very specific example. So I had my grandma died last year, like February of 2020. And I had some, finals like the next week, and I had a bunch of stuff on my plate, and I literally went into Eddie's office and was like bawling my eyes out. First of all, that man gives an amazing hug, I will say. So please, if you ever get a hug from Eddie, embrace it. No pun intended. But he sat down, he was like, let's figure this out. And we came up with a plan where I could, go deal with things I need to deal with without sort of letting stuff drop off. So yeah, it's understand that kind of life exists outside of this place as well, and making sure to preserve that is a really important thing to remember.
Thanks so much for sharing, Ben. So just quickly before we formally wrap, I suppose, I think a lot of the time Wharton MBA students forget they're also Penn students, and there's so much, available as far as resources. So my team works very closely with Penn partners, such as counseling and psychological services, which is CAPS, health and safety, student health services, which is such an incredible resource for students, academic support services. So anything that's, there's public speaking resources, the Grad Student Center, which apparently gives out free coffee, which is cool, international student services. So there's so much available, not only at Wharton, but also at Penn as well. And then I just do want to plug, you can click to the next slide. Hopefully you found this stuff helpful and valuable, but I will say that Wharton, and I'm going to say this because I don't work on the admissions team, so I feel like I can, is just so much, it stands out from its peers because of the community. I mean, it's just so incredible, and you're not going to find it anywhere else. But also, there are so many people invested in your experience here, not only staff and administration and faculty members, but also peers. And I think it's just so unique to Wharton. And I really hope that, it gets me excited, and I hope that, you're excited after this session. I also apologize for being me, but again, I feel like super empowered to be my authentic self, and I think that students do too. And it's you just meet and learn from so many unique and different people here. So Ben, go ahead. What's your closing remarks if you want to top that?
You guys have heard enough of me ramble. I think we've got 20 minutes now. I think it's probably best to open it up to questions, if people have specific questions that we can dive into, if that's helpful.
Totally. I did see a couple pop up. And
do you want to
moderate, or do you want me to just pull?
You can moderate, go for it.
So I got this in a direct message from Gustavo. Hey, how does preterm activities interact with other programs' timelines like Lauder? Great question. So I would say that the two programs that are, I guess, top of mind when planning preterm stuff is Lauder and HCM, healthcare management. Now Lauder starts, I want to say May.
Yeah, Lauder starts super
I'm
early.
not an expert, but so they get the ball rolling much earlier on than the rest of the, the MBA experience. So I think that it'll just, but I guess to answer this question, there shouldn't be conflicts, if that's your question, right? Like we interweave everything, and there's intentionality behind it all, so that it all works out. Like if you do Lauder or HCM, you're not going to miss anything. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Next question. Are any student life programs, clubs accessible to the executive program as well, or only full-time? Unfortunately, just for the full-time MBA, not for I will say the executive program has a slew of resources on their end as well. So hopefully that's helpful. Pooja, yeah, you can totally ask an admissions process question. Hopefully we'll be able to answer it. How is the student experience different for dual degree students? I think that's a good question. I think that would depend on the dual degree. So let's see. And this would be a good question for my colleague / best good friend Lisa Rudy, she's gonna do the last one of these webinars. She actually manages the dual degree programs here. But there's HKS, which is Harvard Kennedy School. There is actually some dual degrees at Penn. I love the GSE, the Graduate School of Education one, because I went to the GSE. What other, Ben, you want to help? You can chime in as you want to, Ben.
There's the JD MBA.
MBA.
That one's a little bit different because you start the JD before the MBA program. And I think the sort of the broader answer to this question is, yeah, it's going to depend, but I think at the end of the day, some of your focus is going to be taken away from Wharton and focusing elsewhere, whether that be HKS, whether that be, the JD program, whatever. So I don't think it's negatively impacted at all. I think it's just a matter of, how do you kind of want to balance your time? Again, going back to that question of how do you balance, what's going on in your life? I mean, one of my good friends, who Meghan knows, Anita, she's an SLF. She's super heavily involved in the Wharton crowd, but also is the president of her law school class. So, and she's a JD MBA.
You all do not sleep. I don't understand. I didn't know that.
That's
incredible.
I don't know how she does all the stuff she does, but
wow.
So yeah, I think it's just a matter of understanding that you may not be able to fully dive in to one or the other, but there's going to be certainly plenty of opportunities to kind of make up for it. The HKS is another good example. So with HKS, you spend a full year at Wharton. You then, if I remember right, you spend half a year, the first semester of your second year up in Boston, up in Cambridge, your second year down here, or your second semester down here in Philly, and then your third year you spend up in Cambridge. So
don't hold us to this. Lisa will be able to confirm, because I want to say there might be flexibility in where you put that semester.
Yeah,
but
let's assume that's the template.
Yeah,
That could be wrong. Let's assume that's the template. So that means you're away from here for a semester. So you just lose a semester of being able to kind of plug in. But that said, there's still a super robust community of people up doing the HKS degree, both dual degree people as well as people that are just there, getting just a public policy degree.
Mm-hmm.
Another good one is semester in San Francisco.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You go spend a semester at the Wharton campus in San Francisco. Yeah, I mean, you give up a semester of being in Philly, being plugged into people, but you've got still a crew of people that you're doing everything with out in San Francisco. So
that campus is so nice.
It's really you're never losing anything. It's just a matter of you're supplanting something with something else.
Yeah. Which, to your point, Ben, it depends on why you came here in the first place, right? If you are interested in startups and tech, semester in San Francisco might be a great option for you, right? So I think it just depends on your personal goals, or professional as well, and what you want to do. Next up, could you talk a little more about the differences between cohorts and clusters? What are some things that each do together? Good question. So like I said, there's 3 cohorts per cluster. So cluster 1, A, B, C, cluster 2, D, E, F, etc. So I would say that the cluster-based activity is really heavy at the start of the program of preterm. So, and I'm just thinking about Olympics. So there's this big Olympics event that we do, which is a competition amongst the clusters. And I am going to let everyone know cluster one won this year. We did have a virtual Olympics and we did win. So way to go, cluster one.
Cluster 4 won last year when we were in person. I'm just saying it's fine.
Okay. Cluster 4 also had like NFL football players on there.
We did.
Cluster.
And professional soccer players.
Anywho, so that's the way we started off, and then we continue to bring the clusters back together with cluster suppers throughout the year. So those are just like, you know, it's the 216 number. The cohort stuff, I would say a lot of the cohort does their core classes together, right? So like you'll be doing a lot of schoolwork with your cohort. That's 72-ish. So you get, and I think that's just like a sweet spot as well. You get to know, you can actually get to know those people. Ben, do you want to talk about your core classes with your cohort?
Yeah, so that's the biggest distinction is your cohort. You're going to take your core classes, which are marketing, microeconomics, stats. I think that's it. And then management 610 with your cohort. So it's a group of 70 some odd people. You get to know them pretty quick because literally like 2 weeks into preterm, you have a week-long class with them, management 610.
Which can we even just shamelessly like brag about the faculty piece, because I'm sure Lisa will, but the faculty that y'all get to work with, I am so jealous because I don't really get to, but Adam Grant typically does cluster 1 for management 610. Like there's some really important people who teach here at Wharton, and just wanted to put that out there too. I'm sure Lisa will elaborate on that, but go ahead, Ben. Sorry, I mean,
yeah, for sure. So you're going to get to know your cohort really, really well. You know, some of my best friends here at Wharton are people from my cohort. Kind of beyond that, it's a way to, the cluster sort of acts as a way to like break up what is a wholly unmanageable number of 864 down into a much more manageable size. You know, I will say I probably know more people from my cluster well than people from other clusters. But that said, they're not like a limiting factor. It's not like the joke we tell here is like their house at Hogwarts. Like they kind of are because we've got like mascots and stuff.
Totally what it is, yeah.
They're not like prohibitive. It's not like you can't, hang out with people in other clusters, obviously. So
to your point,
it's just a way to kind of break the community down into a way that makes it much more digestible, much more easy to kind of sift through. Because if you were just like 864, have fun. I think everyone would kind of be curled up in the corner, like, rocking gently, just so overwhelmed by how much they'd be able to, they would have to deal with. So I think that's the best way to look at it.
Yeah. And we do, provide opportunities to meet folks who aren't in your cluster or cohort or even in your class, because, there's a lot of networking to get done here. So we also do, provide events and ways for folks to connect that way too. So Jen, I don't know if you want to chime in, because I think you've been responding to some of these questions in here. Let me go back up.
Can Ben answer the question about storytellers from Mark?
Yes. One sec. Could you talk a little more about your experience with storytellers? I also want to just put in a plug. It's one of the most awesome clubs here at Wharton. Because
strap yourselves in. We got 10 minutes. I've got like 50 minutes of stuff to say. So no, so Storytellers is one of my favorite things here at Wharton. So I was on the Cluster 1 board of Storytellers, and I was also, not Cluster 1, Year 1 board. And also
you're just Cluster 1 in your heart. It's fine.
I am. Second year I was on the board as well. So the way I'd like to describe Storytellers is like if you took Moth Radio Hour, TED Talk, and a Lifetime movie and like put them all into one. That's kind of what Storytellers is. So it's really just kind of a way to get past the small talk. And we do that via 2 primary methods. One is what are called slams. One is via dinners. Slams are a central theme. We have 8 to 10 students, get up in front of a group of 200 people, most of which they've never met before, and tell a story. Sounds super simple, but what you end up seeing are some of these phenomenally amazing stories. People being super vulnerable, people being super open, people, I remember people telling stories about how like they got up there and, they're like talking about how their father had almost committed suicide. Like, that's how powerful is that to like have someone get up and like tell that story. So it's just a really, really amazing way to kind of like see your class and find out just this amazing community you're involved in, just some awesome things about them in a way that's, again, super vulnerable, super open, super honest, and just kind of allows us to get past this kind of superfluous, for lack of a better word, bullshit that we all kind of have to sit through every day.
The session is being recorded, Ben.
Yeah, well, sorry. But yeah, Storytellers is great. It's open to everybody. We obviously encourage everyone to get involved, one way or the other. So yeah, I can talk about Storyteller for days. I should probably save time for more questions though.
It's fine. It's just a really great and unique way to leverage this community and, get to know folks from such, a wide range of backgrounds and difference. I know I'm lost in here. Hang on. Hi, Lisa. Sorry. Ooh, this is a great question, Ben. What's one unique class that's really shaped your MBA experience?
This is cliche, but I think it's worth saying. Negotiations. Negotiations was one of my favorite classes here at Wharton. The professors, I guess there are multiple professors, but the one that I took was phenomenal. His name's Gatti. One of my favorite professors at Wharton by far. Obviously you get in there and you actually learn how negotiations work and learn tactics and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's really kind of it demonstrates the fact that, like, yeah, you're going to leave this place and you're going to know how to calculate net present value. You're going to leave this place and you're going to know how to, work in Excel. I mean, you're going to learn these like fundamental skills. Don't actually ask me to calculate net present value because I don't know.
Oh my gosh, what takes me 3 hours in Excel takes you all 5 minutes, and it's
it happens. But I think it's indicative of the fact that, like, this place is aware of there's going to be all these life skills you're going to need. And some of those are very soft and very, intangible, and some are very hard. So it's a very complete ecosystem. I think negotiations really sort of brings all that to a head in that, there's going to be soft skills, there's going to be hard skills. You're going to need both to be successful. That was a fantastic one. Another one that I should just finished up was Power in Politics and Organizations with Nirmo. Nirmo's a fantastic professor.
He's
for those of you that come here in cluster 2, I think.
4.
What? It wasn't cluster 4.
You're right.
I think Nirmo does 2.
I don't want to give too much away. Sorry.
Nirmo's fantastic. Nirmo's awesome. Younger guy, but just, very, very, just really, really cool work into like how organizations work and function together, like the inner dynamics that exist within them. And that's what all the class is about. I
audit that. I'm so jealous of students sometimes.
I could go on and on. Influence is great. Organizational decision-making is fantastic. I mean, the base level stats course is amazing. So like I could literally go on and on and on. But I mean, to Megan's point, there are phenomenal professors here who are doing wonderful, wonderful work. And I think one of the things that I don't think Wharton, and they'll probably talk about this in academics, but I don't think Wharton does a good enough job of bragging about is the fact that, like, we have a huge faculty. And the reason why we have such a big faculty is the fact that Wharton encourages their professors to, like, go do the work they preach about. You don't have all these, yes, you have some professors who focus heavily on research, of course, but you have a lot of like practicing professors too, who, they'll come spend half a semester with you teaching you macroeconomics. I'm thinking of Professor Landry. But then he goes up and he works, I believe, for the Canadian Fed, if I remember right. Like lives in Canada, works, I'm pretty sure it works for the Canadian Fed, and then comes down here and like literally tells us the work that he's doing. Like it's phenomenal. They're really, really amazing professors. So, there's going to be a bunch of courses that you're going to leave here and be like, I really wish I had taken this course and this course and this course and this course. That's one of the things that's unfortunate is they're all really good.
If that doesn't get you excited about school and Wharton, I don't know what will, because I just got excited about school Wharton. We have a few more minutes, and there's a good question here from Brett. Hey, Brett. You mentioned the connection to Penn as a resource. Are there other things that come to mind when you find a lot of crossover things? And that's a great question, and let me elaborate on that. So yes, to answer your question, there is another acronym called GAPSA, which is Graduate Affair. basically it's all the grad students at Penn. I don't really know what the actual acronym is, but it's the MBA program, it's the law school, it's the medical school, it's the graduate school of education, it's the like all of the graduate programs. That's their student government, if you will. So through GAPSA, they do a lot of events, networking events. There's also, I want to say that there's like resources and funds that clubs can apply for via GAPSA to do things. There's also, I want to say like some of the sports clubs, like I know basketball is not, or maybe it's just they play different students. Ben, are you aware?
No idea.
What's another way? I know fight night. So fight night is an example of the law school and Wharton. They have a boxing match, if you will, and that's one of the big banner events that happens every year. Yeah, there's so much, and now I'm like my brain, but there's a ton of ways, and I think that like even I try to loop in Penn traditions as well. Like so, which fun fact, the pay it forward mentality that I was speaking about earlier, which is just like one of the best parts about Wharton. I think goes back to the Quaker, to the Penn Quaker Foundation, which I found to be really interesting. So we like try to bring in like the Glee Club or the pep band and the Quaker mascot. There's ways to get cheap tickets to the Penn football games, and also basketball games. So there's, you know, a ton of ways to access those resources and get involved within the Penn community, which I would highly encourage because Penn's also really awesome. Got 2 minutes. Should we try to squeeze in another one?
Let's do it.
Ooh, Jonathan, this is a great one. What do you think is a common misperception that prospective students have of Wharton before coming to school? Ben, I'll let you.
I got in this one. Call me.
Hi,
so I think the big one is, and listen, I heard it. You're going to come here. It's going to be super competitive. It's going to be super backstabby. You're going to be fighting with everyone for every inch you have to get. And that couldn't be further from the truth. This place is so collaborative, so open, so willing to just help, you know, everyone around them at all possible times that I'm constantly blown away. I want to say the sort of perception of this being super competitive probably comes from the undergrads. Wharton has an undergrad degree as well, and I think that's pretty competitive. But
really?
like, yeah.
Okay.
You know,
I want to chime in too, Ben. Leave me space too. Sorry, I'm just excited about this question. I want to chime in too. Leave me like 10 seconds.
I will. But so it's you know, you're gonna come here. You're gonna find. You're not gonna be sniping with people for anything. You know, I remember when I was interviewing for consulting jobs. You know, I'm going up against these people. I'm literally interviewing against these people for a job, and like I'm helping to case them. And that's just kind of the mentality here. You know, you're not fighting for grades. You're not fighting for spots. Like it's all collaborative and supportive and super, super helpful. And that's really an amazing thing about this community.
How many cups of coffee are there in Seattle right now? That's one of my favorite consulting bits, because I can't imagine what you all have to answer in those interviews. Anyway, I would say, in my opinion, the misperception is that you come here because you want to do finance or consulting or banking, and like you get on the track and you do the thing. So I think there's so many, which is not the case. Like the career management office and the resources available for all industries is incredible, right? Especially I would say for tech, for startups, entrepreneurship. So that's one of them. And also I think, if I can say, Jen, are we recording like the white bra from finance school? Like this is the most diverse and vibrant community that I've ever had the privilege to be a part of. And I think that there's so much growth and learning from that community. You know, like it's just a transformative experience. So, wow, it's 101. With that, I'm sorry that we didn't get to everyone's question. Or can we keep going? Jen, I'll let you. You're the boss.
I do want to be mindful of time, so I appreciate Megan and Ben, you both joining us today. On the screen, you'll see a couple of ways that you all can stay connected with us. I want to be very mindful, one, of Megan's time and bandwidth as she is here to help our current students. If you do have remaining questions about the Office of Student Life, we ask that you continue to send those through the admissions office. You'll see our email address listed there on the screen. We'll be happy. Our team can answer questions that you send forward to us or find the resources to help answer those. And then another great way to stay involved and get the student perspective is through our admissions fellow program. So Meghan mentioned that she works with the Student Life Fellows, and those are a group of students that will help you once you get to campus. But our MBA admissions office has a separate group of fellows. We have 55 current students that are going into their second year now, who are here to help you through the admissions process. So if you want to reach out to them, that email address or that website is also listed on the screen here. The admissions